What's up? My name is Sa'ib and welcome to another episode of this Canvas game development series. Following from where we actually stopped at the last episode, one last thing that I actually forgot to tell you about is just the coloring of the text. And this is simply done by just calling the fill and stroke style. Since we're using a fill text, this is exactly works just like the rect, fill rect or stroke rect. So simply if I just called fill style before the fill text and then I give it a color, let's say that I want to give it a tan color for instance, we can see now that this slide has a tan color. Simply the same goes to canvas style, so the canvas styling. If I want to style the stroke of this canvas, so I can just say context and stroke style that way, and then let's say that I want to give it a blue stroke, so simply I can call the blue hex by giving the blue the highest value. Now you can see that we colored this canvas simply like that. Another thing that we're going to talk about in this episode is shadowing, how to give a shadow to a text or any shape in our canvas. This is simply done by just calling the four methods of the shadow, in which specifies how exactly the shadow should be displayed in each element like that. So simply let's say that I want to give those two a shadow. For instance, if I want to give a shape a shadow, I have to call the shadow function methods before the like say that I want to give a shadow to Sa'ib, this one, I have to call the shadow before the full text. The same goes for stroke test. If I write the shadow methods in here, that means that it's going to be applied to all of the shapes that comes after it. So simply let's call the 2D context, and now by calling shadow we have an offset X, offset Y, and then color, and then the blur to actually see how strong and how blur the shadow can be. So simply I can go within, the first thing is to set the offset for X and Y. So simply if I give it a 5 for instance for the X, and then the offset of Y for the shadow can be same as X, let's say 5. Now let's give it, specify the shadow blur. Okay, the less the shadow blur is, the more strong this shadow can be. So let's say that I want to make it 1, so it actually is so strong that we can see it. Then I can simply just specify the shadow color that way, and then let's call the RGBA function. We've talked about colors in a previous episode, you should check that one. Okay, let's give it a shadow of green for instance. So simply I can give the highest value to the green value or channel 0, and then let's give it a transparency of 50%. Now you can see now that we have this green shadow for both of them. You can see how strong is this one. We can actually make it more blur by increasing the value of the shadow blur. So if I set 6 for instance, you can see that it goes now, gives you this blurry effect, something like that. Okay, so the same goes if we lessen the shadow blur that way. We can change the direction of this shadow by just giving a negative value to the X for instance. Now it goes that way. I can give it to the Y so that it goes up like that, since we know that the Y or the vertical axis is just is inverse, not like the casual Cartesian. It increases from the top to the bottom, unlike the X in which increases from the left to the right. So yeah, the negative should give the X the offset of X that goes to the left. Same goes for the Y, but the Y goes now up, not down, since this uses inverse Cartesian, the canvas itself. So yeah, that's everything you should know about shadows. I think if we just let's say that I want to give it a different color just by giving random values to the RGBA for instance. Now we can have this lighter green. I think if we just make this fully opaque, or just no transparency applied to this one, we can, let's increase the blur of that, we can have this one. The same goes exactly for any shape. So if I called a rect, if I filled a rect context and fill rect, let's say 50, 200, 220, 150. Okay, now we can have this one in here. See, the shadow is applied to this one. I can change this by simply if I want the color of this text, the shadow color of this text to be different, I can just specify another shadow color before this function, so that in which is fill text, this shape. So simply by calling the shadow color again, and let's give it a tan shadow, just like let's change that to steel blue actually to see the shadow, see that way. And this is going to be applied to the canvas as well, since the canvas in which is the stock text is called after that shadow color. So yeah, but for the rect it's gonna follow this shadow color. So yeah, this is simply everything you need to know about texts and shadows and how to apply them. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.